Hush, Owen said. Hush now, nothing's amiss. It's only the noise. We're safe out here under our blanket, you and me. Feel my heart, she said, whirring like a wren. Was it like that night in my house when you couldn't sleep, he asked. Worse, said Lou. Your lovely house, I could hear a little stream falling down to the river by the bridge, where I asked the gossipy women how to find you. But in me, nevertheless, in your friendly house, to my shame, oh, it was very bad. She was quiet. She listened to the noise, the churning, milling, steady, mechanical, cold breathing. Was I talking, she asked. Yes. Could you understand? The words I could. What words? What did I say? I'll tell you one night when we are quiet if you want to know. Sleep now. Sleep rose and fell in her, in levels and layers with the noise of the underground waters. Sometimes her sleep felt threadbare and she shivered with cold, but in other passages, Owen wrapping her more tightly perhaps, she went deeper under and found it not only warm but strangely tranquil too. Later, when she thought of this sleeping with him, these depths of warmth and tranquillity seemed to her quite peculiarly blessed. Hopeful, too, that she could sleep with him like that. And another thing, every time she surfaced and said a few fragments more on subjects troubling her, he answered at once, just where she would have wished him to, so that her feeling later was that he had been attentive all night long, not awake necessarily, but so tuned to her sleeping, its rise and fall, its shallows, depths, fretfulness and calm, that whenever she needed him listening and answering, there he was. She remembered very little of what in the latter part of the night they had exchanged in the way of words, but the sense of it all, of their embracing and sleeping and speaking, while the vast heart of the back and beyond of the cave pulsed, throbbed, thudded, and dispatched its flotilla of bubbles into their breathing space, the sense of all that she would never forget. The light crept up as delicately as it had faded. Lou became aware of it as a faint alteration on the lids of her eyes. She opened them, dozed again, opened them next on a hazy visibility. The wren chirred loudly and flitted. Lou found that her right hand was gripping quite hard into the clothing over Owen's heart. And in a rush of happiness came back a memory of the strength of the grip of her fingers in the clefts of moss and rock when she hauled herself by the last body length of the let-down hank of pure water in one light movement through and safely up. She felt for Owen's cold face, the rasp of beard, and further for his eyes. First one, then the other, they fluttered at the centre of the palm of her right hand. He eased himself free, wrapped her more tightly, put on his boots and the hat and left. The blanket alone was by no means enough. So much warmth in a man. Still she lay, watching and listening. Outside was lighter but misty. Under the coping the ferns were beaded. The breathing through the slit of the cave issued over her cold, and she exulted to have kept warm like a bird, like a small animal, to have slept on a ledge with the din of the underworld droning all night in her ears, her and the man with his arms around her, warm enough together, surviving. When Owen came back, he appeared strange to her. He was bareheaded, and his hair, shining with droplets of mist, had a grizzled look, but he was grinning like a boy. "See here," he said, "see what I've found." She sat up and peered into his proffered hat. Berries like big blackberries, the drupals with a grey-purple bloom over them, like plums. "Dewberries," he said. "I hoped there might be some." He laid them by her. She took one very gently between 3 fingers and a thumb, examined it, its collected succulence. "Dewberry," she said, and popped it into the warm room of her mouth. Meanwhile, Owen dug out a small gaz from his bag and brewed a mug of black coffee. "Boy Scout," she said, "hunter-gatherer in the fog." She loved him when he couldn't help showing he was pleased with himself. After the small ceremony of breakfast, she asked him did he have a towel in that bag of his. He did, he produced it. "Now go for a little walk while I see to myself." First Lou went to the back of the cave, where the clear water slid out with the bubbles. She made herself small to get as close as possible and listened hard. It was a pulse, a great heart beating and pulsing. It would live forever. So the rock earth respired, air riding on water came forth. Then she went out, taking her bag to the brink where the water fell. She could see nothing ahead or below, only mist. But the mist, not so very high above her, was colouring faintly blue, and above that, very distinctly, were larks. Quickly she undressed, ran off to the far corner, squatted like a beast, ran back to the water, stood in it, stooped, and with copious freezing handfuls sluiced and washed herself. Stood toweling then on the brink facing out. Nobody sees me, she thought, like the shoot in the dark in the cave, and here I am, fit to be looked at, and shivering for no other reason than that I am cold. Then she put on the underwear she had bought for their meeting, then her jeans, socks and boots, next the red dress, and over that her sweater and fleece. Owen came back. They packed. "Owen," she said, "can we walk all day now? Do we have to go back into the town? I don't really want to climb down the waterfall. Not that I couldn't, you understand, but it was so lovely climbing up." "I was going to say," said Owen, "that we can walk across the Gritstone from here, if you like, all the way back to my house, if you would like. I looked at the map while you were seeing to yourself." "That is exactly what I would like," she said. "And will it be warm?" "I'd say so," he said, "in an hour or so." "Good," said Lou. "I want some sun. I know I look funny at the moment, bundled up, but things will improve as we go along. You'll see."